Welcome, fellow freaks, geeks, and nostalgic 90s nerds to my channel, Slime and Slashers, where, yeah, we talk about everything from Nickelodeon slime to horror movie slashers, and we also talk about horror fiction slashers, because today, I'm feeling really scared with this knife, by the way. No, today we are talking about slasher books. I'm going to be telling you guys about my flippin' June reading wrap-up, and basically, what I read in June, slashers. That's basically all I read. So it was my awesome Slime Summer Slashers readathon, and thank you guys so much to anybody who participated along and joined in on the fun, because it was a blast. Not only did I read some slashers, I watched some slashers too. Not as many as I would have liked, but I'm hoping to fit a few slashers in before the summer is through, because hey, summertime, I think any month of the summer is appropriate for slashers. So anyway, without further ado, we will go to the short intro, and when we come back, we will dig into and, we'll take a stab at talking about all of my June reads. Alright, see you back here in a second. Welcome back, guys! Did I buy bloody knife earrings just for my reading wrap-up? Yes! But also, they're awesome in general. I mean, I kind of like them no matter what. Whether or not I would have done a whole reading month of slashers, I still think I would have bought these earrings regardless, because they're pretty badass. They're pretty bloody awesome. Anyway, alright, so let's dig into the books. Wait, how many did I read? I've got my little TBR, and the ones that are colored in, that's the ones I read. And of course, I had to make the font color red for blood, because it's a month of slashers and bloody goodness. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I read 9 books in June, and 3 of the books were 5-star reads. So without further ado, let's start talking about them. Alright, first up is a book I read for my book club that I run here on this channel. The book club is called the Midnight Book Society, and thanks to anyone who joined in and participated in one of my club reads for June, which was Night Shoot by David Sodergren. I'm not going to talk too much about it, because if you want to hear my in-depth thoughts with spoilers, I do have a whole live show up discussing this book. So if you've read this and you're interested in my really, really thorough thoughts about this, then check out that live stream. I will link it below. Alright guys, so this book was a lot of fun. It's basically like a horror movie in book form. Now, do I think that this is 100% a slasher, like a pure slasher? No, I do not think that. In fact, a lot of the books I read in June, a lot of the books were like that. They were not pure slashers, in my opinion. Still a lot of fun, still had slasher elements, still had some, like, stabbing and some killing, and so it felt appropriate. It didn't feel completely out of place. But to me, and if you guys think of slashers as something different than this, then that's fine. But to me, what a slasher is, kind of like a slasher movie, it reminds me of the same thing in a slasher book. What I want from that is, I want a killer, a singular killer, who uses a multitude of weapons to just kill brutally. And it's not really a torture type of killing, it's just like quick killing, and he's killing a whole bunch of people. And it reminds me of a movie like Halloween, or of course Friday the 13th. So Night Shoot felt like a horror movie, but at the same time there was also kind of like these creatures in it, and it was just very, very well done. I will say what was surprising was there's a romance at the center of this story, which was actually my favorite part. I actually like the romance more than any of the killing. Of course, we get some really gruesome moments, like there's this one part with like a penis getting hurt. I don't know why, it always seems like I'm reading books where this is going down and like penises are getting impaled or something. Anyway, you gotta read it to find out what I mean. It's not really a spoiler. You don't know who or what exactly happens, but yeah. For some reason, books that I read seem to have that happen a lot for some reason. But yes, this was so much fun. I gave it a 4-star rating, and I do recommend it. I will say, though, that David Sodergren even says at the back of his book, like, embrace the trash. So that's the type of style I feel like it is. It's very reminiscent of like an 80s horror movie, but also 80s horror fiction as well, which is kind of more trashy, more out there, more zany. Night Shoot reminded me a lot of all of that. And so essentially the main premise is we've got these group of film students and they're shooting a movie in this mansion, and one of the students, it's his uncle's mansion, and the uncle's kind of weird. And he's like, everyone must get out by this time, and no one knows why, and everybody winds up back in the house, even though they were supposed to be gone, and stuff starts to go down from there. So I like the film element, but more than that, I really liked, like I said, the main romance at the center of this, and the ending is what elevated this for me. The ending was my very favorite part, and I can't really talk very much about it, because obviously spoilers, but yes, that was my absolute favorite part of the entire reading experience, but definitely enjoyed. So glad I picked it up. Second David Sodergren book. First one was Forgotten Island, and I loved both of them, so I cannot wait to keep reading more by David Sodergren. Next up, my other book club read, because usually my book club, the Midnight Book Society, we have 2 reads per month, and people can choose to read one, the other, both, or if they don't want to participate, of course, nobody has to. But anyway, this was our second book club read for the month of June, and I have not held a live show for this yet, but I will actually this very week. I'm planning to do it this Sunday. So that will be coming up very soon, so I'm not going to talk too in depth about this, but I will just say that I very much enjoyed it. It was super fun. Another book that felt like it was a movie, and this is a very meta-seeming book to where you've got a lot of the horror movie tropes discussed in the book, and it's just a lot of fun. So we're following this main character, Liam. He's obsessed with horror movies, and he's actually trying to write his own horror movie that he wants to direct, and strange things starts to happen around his town, including people start to see a famous horror movie character, Pigfoot, around town. So what is going on? And that is what the story essentially tries to, show us. Everything becomes revealed at a certain point, and I really liked the turn that this took. It wasn't just your straight slasher. It had a lot of elements to this, but really it was just a gory good time, and I'd give it overall a 4-star rating. Definitely enjoyable as hell. So glad I read it. I will be trying to read more by Patrick Lacey, because this was just quick, easy, very entertaining. A lot of slasher books, a lot of these books are kind of easy breezy, just fun, kind of, light in a way, in that it's really just meant to be something kind of trashy, fun, whatever, not super deep, except there are a few deep ones on my list, but those aren't pure slashers, it feels like, either, but we'll get there when we get there. But in terms of Bonesaw, really enjoyed it, so glad I gave it a go. Next up, Brother by Anaya Alborn, and this was one of my 5-star reads, so I absolutely adored this. Do I think this one's a pure slasher either? No. And this is one of the more heavy ones that I was referencing just a second ago. I said that, most slasher books are kind of light, just like slasher movies. However, this book, which some people consider a slasher, is pretty damn heavy and bleak in my opinion. I love this book. To me, instead of just focusing on killing or violence or gore, this actually focused a lot more on characters. Now, some people might think that is a con and, not a good thing. I actually enjoyed that it focused on characters because the characters were fleshed out, they were well-rounded. Our main character, his name is Michael, and we're following him essentially, and how he's really not jiving with his family, and he seems very different from his family. And his family, they're a group of killers kind of living out in the woods, like on the outskirts of the woods in a house, but still, that's where they kind of do all their killing. And Michael is just not into it, and he just feels like he does not fit in with his family. And so we follow him and how he's trying to come to grips to this, and how he's just making it through his life. And yes, this is really impactful, very emotional, and just wonderfully written. I can't wait to read more by Anaya Alborn, because this blew me away. It exceeded my expectations. I mean, I heard it was good, but it was actually better than I thought it would be. So very pleased, and yeah, a great 5-star read. Now, like I said, some people might think it's too character heavy, character driven. Me, I personally very much liked that and enjoyed that and thought that was a pro. Next up, I finally read a book that I've been wanting to read for a very long time, and a book that I feel like everyone else in the whole world has read except for me, and that is Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Caesar. And this was fun. I had a good time with this one. A great slasher book, lots of wonderful, like, slashery vibes, like, you know, slasher tropes as well, but there were some unique things in this book as well. Now, so what ended up happening, I feel like, is pretty obvious. It's not like a surprise who's at fault for the killing, who's responsible, I should say, for the killing. I feel like, to me, that was pretty obvious, but that wasn't really the point. The point was just seeing how everything unfolded and what was going to go down and how things were going to end up. And so I was very pleased with this, and it was just easy to read. Also very atmospheric in terms of you got everything going down, there's corn everywhere. It just kind of felt Halloween-y, and I don't know, it was a great setting for a slasher book. And the sequel is coming out in August, so I think it was perfect that I finally got to this in June. So now I'm ready if I want to pick up, which I will have it in my possession because I pre-ordered it. So if I want to pick up the book in August, I can, because I finally got to this. Woo! And this was basically a 4-star read for me. Very fun. Next up, a book I don't have a physical copy of because I read it on Kindle. I read Paradise Club by Tim Meyer, and this is my second Tim Meyer book that I've read. The first one was Kill Hill Carnage, which was super bloody, super graphic, and super, like, zany and out there, and very unique. I feel like Paradise Club is the exact same way. So Paradise Club, also super bloody, also super action-packed, and also super unique and different. Paradise Club is definitely not just a mere slasher type of book. There's more going on, and it's just perfect for summertime. Like, if you're gonna pick up the book, you've got to pick it up in summer because it just feels like a great either beachside read or poolside read, because it takes place at this resort. This family is, you know, going there. They got a free trip and they think everything's too good to be true. Well, maybe they are right, because things start to go down at this resort, and yeah, lots of killing takes place. So I'm not going to say much more than that. It was really easy to read in terms of super quick. Everything was very fast-paced. Again, in terms of character development, not like super deep, but still just a fun time. And like I said, an appropriate read for this time of year especially. So that also was a 4-star read for me. I would definitely recommend it if you like summer vibes, if you like gory books and bloody, like lots of blood, buckets of blood. This would be for you. Next, I read a short little novella, and this is actually the first book I read for the month of June. Because it was so short, I wanted to kick the month off very strong, and so I finished this like the first day of the month. So started and finished very same day. This is 20th Anniversary Screening by Jeff Strand. Super quick. I mean, how many pages is this? Flipping 91 pages. So easy to get through. I did mark a few passages. And look at this fantastic cover. This knife in the tub of popcorn. Love it. So thematic for what this story is about. And essentially, the story is formatted like an online article from like a horror website. And the article is discussing this film, this slasher film. Of course, it's a fictional slasher film. It's about a roofer, and so the article describes the entire movie, the kills, the characters in the movie, and the actors who were in the movie and how it wasn't very successful, and the director is very embarrassed of it. And then the article goes deeper into how when the movie first premiered, there was a big flippin' disaster, like a killing at one of the premieres. And then the article talks about how 20 years later, the same place where this disaster took place, all these killings took place, they decided to do a 20th anniversary screening, and how that wasn't a good idea, and why that wasn't a good idea. And so we get the whole story of everything. The movie itself, the initial release of the movie, and then the 20th anniversary screening of the movie. And the movie, again, is The Roofer, which is a slasher film, and the whole thing, like I said, is formatted like this article that goes through it all. And I just love the formatting because it was something different, and there was a little twist here that I thought was really, really good and surprising. I will say, Jeff Strand, he writes dialogue really well, and it always makes me laugh. Like, some of his characters, just the way they speak, it's very sarcastic or just absurd in a way. Like, it feels like people wouldn't talk like that, but it works somehow when Jeff Strand does it. I don't know. Anyway, it reminded me a lot of, obviously, the way the characters talk in the other Jeff Strand book I read called Clowns vs. Spiders. However, Clowns vs. Spiders, I liked it like a little bit more or a lot more than this one. This one was good, but Clowns vs. Spiders to me is like god tier when it comes to horror comedy. This was just really unique and fun and different, but the comedy wasn't as strong as Clowns vs. Spiders, and that's what I was kind of looking for. But still, there was some like funny stuff in here too, though. Overall, I gave this 4 stars, and it's so like quick to read. Why not pick it up if you're intrigued? Next up, another book I gave 5 stars, and this is another heavy book, and it's definitely not a pure slasher in any way because I feel like it's more of like a torture extreme book. So there's like extreme horror and there's tons of torture, and it's just very hard to read. One of the hardest books ever to read, but at the same time it was also very quick to read, if that makes sense. So it was easy in a way in terms of that it moved and moved and you wanted to keep turning the pages, but in another way the torture was so horrific that made it hard to read and difficult to get through. So essentially the premise of this, we're following Roger, who's our main character, and he's back home from college for summer, and he's going to spend some time with his family, and he's really wanting to spend some quality time with his best friend Tooth. And his best friend Tooth did not go to college. He's like kind of been stuck in this town while Roger went off to school. So they're catching back up and just, you know, doing things that friends would do. I will say, Roger is not that annoying. He's a little bit annoying, but Tooth is very annoying. However, I feel like Tooth at a point redeems himself in the story. So my friend Kelly actually DNF'd this because she said that, you know, the characters were just annoying. And they're kind of like, you know, they're talking about girls, and Tooth's kind of like, ugh, in the way he talks about women and stuff. But, you know, classic small town guy. However, he does have a good heart because he wants to help people if people are in trouble, and you see this throughout the story. So to me, I feel like, as I said, he redeems himself at a point. So yes, Tooth isn't the most likable guy, but you do feel for him and you do feel for Roger, because they are out hanging out like in the wilderness and they hear a woman scream. They go to investigate and try to like figure out what's going on to see if they need to help this person. They have no self-service, so that's not an option. And yeah, bad things happen and they wind up stuck and torture takes place and stuff. I'm not going to go into too much detail because this really isn't that long of a book. So yes, it's only 186 pages, so I don't want to give away too much. It had some of the most extreme torture scenes I have ever read, and I've read some extreme torture scenes before, but this one was just to another level. And the thing that I think sets this apart and elevates this above other extreme books is that there was a reasoning behind this story. There was an examination of fate versus, you know, luck. And I did talk about this book in my top 10 reads of 2022 so far, so obviously I really like this book if it was included in that video, and it was. So I gave this 5 stars. Very, very, very difficult to read, but worth it in my opinion because it had some philosophical things to say and to make you ponder on. Next up, I read Pillowface, and this was a read that I read on my Kindle, so I don't have a physical copy. But this was a lot of fun. Now, I had heard this book compared to a Richard Lehman type of style, and that was definitely true. So Pillowface follows Pillowface, a killer, but there's more than one killer in the book, actually. But Pillowface stumbles across this boy, and like an unlikely friendship develops between the two of them. The reason this book is Layman-esque is because there's tons of sex and there's tons of gore and violence, and the premise is a little absurd in that you have to suspend your disbelief to believe some of the things taking place. And like some of the characters are super cringeworthy and whatever, but was it fun? Yeah, it was a thrill ride in a way, in terms of lots of action, lots and lots of blood, just like oozing from the pages. I really had a good time with this one. Like, was it a flippin' gem in terms of, was it the best book I've ever read? No. But it was just a good time, something you could just sit back and read and relax and kind of forget about everything and not think too deeply about it. So I'm going to give this one a 3.5 star, rounded up for Goodreads. I do recommend it for those who like layman type of books, or books, you know, that are a little trashy and sleazy and, I don't know, trashy cozy is what I call it, but Pillowface had that vibe, and I definitely think people are correct when they compare it to Richard Lehman's work, because it felt like that for sure for me. But yes, glad I read it. Pillowface was a cool killer type of character, but you did feel for him in a way, because, I don't know, like I said, there's like this friendship, and so you kind of get a deeper look at him a little bit, and I liked that. So yeah, I'm glad I read it. And last but not least, I read And Then There Were None, which is really more of a classic type of book and more of a murder mystery type of book. I guess you could consider it in the slasher vein because there is killing in the book. This, of course, is by Agatha Christie, and this was so good. This was like very surprising to me how much I ended up enjoying it, because I didn't think that I would love the writing style. I was afraid that it possibly could be difficult to get into because of the older writing style. However, it was very readable, very easy to find myself absorbed in the story. I loved it. It was so well written in terms of the story was well crafted. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I didn't figure out who the killer was. I had so many guesses throughout the whole book and loved the end. Just very, very, very well planned, because I mean, I just think about how did Agatha Christie like figure out what was going to happen. She had a little note about it in the beginning where she said it was difficult, but she's very proud because of how difficult it was to write a book where people wouldn't be able to guess the killer, and there were so many characters involved. You know, you would think that would be confusing, but she did a great job at making them all seem very unique and very distinct. So I felt like they all had different personalities, and so I could tell them apart rather easily once I kind of got into the story a little bit, and once I kind of started to get going with it. Then I started to realize, okay, well, this person's like this person's like that, and that's how I kept things straight. So yeah, I'm so glad I gave this one a go, and I gotta say, it's actually, like, I gave it another chance, because technically it's a reread for me, because I read this in school. However, did I remember a thing about it? No. As I was reading, I was like, I don't remember any of this. I didn't remember the killer. I didn't remember, basically, not one iota. Nothing. So that's okay, because it was like a new experience, so that was a little bit fun, that it was almost brand new to me in a way. And yeah, I am so happy that I liked a classic as much as I did. How much did I like it? 5 stars, bitch. That's how much I liked it. So I'm gonna give Agatha Christie some more goes. Like, I might dig into some of her other books. Have you guys read anything by her besides And Then There Were None? Like, and if so, what did you read? What have you liked? What should I dig into next by her? Because yes, I'm very pleased with this experience. Alright, and before I wrap up, I do want to say I did start a 10th book, which was Larry, and I was really enjoying it. This felt like a pure slasher. Out of all the books I read, Larry felt like the most slashery book. However, I did not get to finish it because I first started it kind of near the beginning of the month. Then my friend Alex over at the channel The Bookubus, I will link her channel below, she announced this really fun Scary Sleepover Weekend event, which was a weekend-long readathon she was hosting. And one of the prompts said, read a popcorn book, or yeah, that was it, read a popcorn book. So Larry was going to be my popcorn book. So once she announced it, I said, I'm going to stop reading Larry right now and save it for the end of the month. When I got to the end of the month, I actually had to finish And Then There Were None for a book club I'm in. So I couldn't get to Larry that weekend. In fact, I got to like nothing that weekend for Scary Sleepover Weekend, which I was bummed about. But I did finish And Then There Were None that weekend. So I read something. Just not the things I had planned for my TBR for that readathon. But yeah, so Larry ended up not getting finished, which is a huge, huge drag. And it's like, no, I was really liking it. It was funny. It was silly. It kind of plays around with horror tropes, and it's like a wink type of thing. Like, oh, it doesn't take itself too seriously. Definitely a horror comedy type of book. And it was definitely going to be bloody, too. I mean, I saw some blood in the beginning, but, like, I didn't get that far in, so I don't know what would have developed, but I was liking it, so I'm hoping to finish that at some point before the summer is through, because I think I was, like, 30% into the book. So, it's a shame, but I started it in June, I just did not finish it. And the only other book that I didn't start or finish was Abracadaver, and so I will just save that for next summer, because that should be a lot of fun. Essentially, we've got this magician who's blamed for these murders, and these murders have, like, these elements to do with magic, like magic tricks. And so that's why everyone suspects this magician. However, even after he's locked up, murders of a similar nature start to take place many years later, and so people are starting to think, well, maybe it wasn't the magician after all, maybe it's somebody else. And so that's the premise of that one. So that one sounds like a blast, and it's a shame I didn't even get to start it, but maybe next year. I'm definitely going to get to it at some point, we just don't know when. I'm thinking next year's a good time, because this summer is already packed right now. For this month, July, I'm reading coming-of-age books, so a whole bunch of chunky books, and I'm loving my experience in July so far. August is a lot of random things, like cult books. I've got to read some arcs that I promised people I would read. Then I've got, you know, The Clown in the Cornfield sequels coming out. There's just a whole bunch of shit, pardon my French, in August that is going down that I want to participate in. So, Abracadaver, you gotta wait. You're gonna be on the slab for a little while, and you're gonna have to wait till next year, I think. Anyway, though, it was a blast. Even though I didn't get through my entire TBR, I still think 9 books is pretty darn good, and I want to thank you guys again for participating if you join me in this readathon and watchathon, because like I said, there was a watching element that I included in this whole event. So thank you to anyone who joined in, because it means a lot. It's better when it's more than just me, and I loved seeing people's vlogs. My friend Amy Noel did a vlog. My friend Katrina over at Katrina Brown, the YouTube channel, did a vlog. I know Kelly tried to read some slashers. I know my friend Crystal over at Fiber Artsy read some slashers. Ali from Criminali read some slashers and talked about some slashers that he read in a couple of videos, more than one video, and I loved hearing his thoughts. Lots of people were kind of joining in on Instagram too, so thank you all so very much. It just brings a lot of joy to me that people will join in. Did you read any of the books that I talked about in this video? If so, please let me know in the comments below, and let me know what you thought of the books, but please be careful of spoilers. We don't want anyone to get any kind of books spoiled for them. That would suck. Also, let me know if you want to read any of these books but haven't yet, and which ones and why, because I love to have fun discussions with you guys. It makes everything even better. Just like you guys joining in on the readathon and watchathon made it better, commenting with you guys and chatting with you makes things better too. Alright guys, well that is it for me for this time. Till next time, you know what you can do, and it made a creepy noise when I took it out. You can keep on killing it. Bye guys!